Hi, thanks for joining us for another edition of Ask Spurrell CPA. Today we're talking about getting up early versus starting work late. I have Laura here with me again.
Hi.
So Laura, you have some thoughts on if it's going to snow one more time this year?
All I wanted to say is I hope it doesn't.
You hope it doesn't. Okay, so you heard it here first. Laura has personally guaranteed that it will not snow again in Alberta past today's date, right? That's what you said? Not quite. Okay. The quote that we have here is a Zig Ziglar quote. If you don't plan your time, someone else will help you waste it. And so Industry Canada tells us that 50% of all Canadian small businesses fail. And business owners, they start working for themselves and they think that the hours worked at night are just as productive as the hours that they work in the morning, which may not be the case. And so, Laura, what are the questions you think these business owners should be asking when they're considering, do I need to wake up early and get at it, or can I simply just stay up later?
When you are more likely to be distracted is in the morning or at night?
You're probably more likely to be distracted at night. So let's think about that. If you wake up at 5 a.m., how many times does your phone actually ring at 5 a.m.? How many text messages do you get at 5 a.m.? Do customers call you routinely at, quarter after 5, 6 a.m. in the morning? Maybe for that one off that they do, there's a lot more people who call you between 9 and 5 is generally the way it goes. So, and then at night you have family who are expecting to see you and interact with you, so they're distracting you. But when you get up in the morning, first thing in the morning, it's probably the least amount of distractions that you're going to have are between those kind of 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. hours that I find.
Generally, do we have more ability to tackle hard tasks earlier or later in the day?
So we have a certain amount of, let's call it intellectual capital, that we have to spend every day. And they've proven that, as we get throughout the day, we make more and more decisions and we take on more and more tasks. We actually start, reducing our resolve to do hard things. We also reduce our intelligence levels too. We'll score better on intelligence tests, in the morning more fresh than later in the day. So we have a bigger ability to take on harder tasks, tasks that are a little more intimidating as well, earlier in the day.
How does morning prep time allow you to prepare for meetings later that day?
So morning prep time is fantastic because if you have that morning meeting time, now you've read it the day before. That's the earliest you've read it, right? So if you prepared for the meeting the day before, but if you have meetings later in the day, you can do your prep work in the morning. You've read it the same day. You're gonna look really good in meetings if you prepared for them, and then 2 hours later you're talking about the subject. Clients are, it's a way to kind of wow clients a little bit, because you can be, super prepared to have that information fresh in your mind because you've just reviewed it and you just prepared for the meeting. So having that morning prep time, if we start early enough, we can have some morning prep time for that meeting late in the day and just be super prepared and have that information fresh and ready to go in our minds.
What are commute times like in the early morning versus later in the morning?
Yeah, so here's another thing. A commute is kind of a lot of people, they have to go into a regular place of business, whether it's a job site or the office or a shop or whatever it may be. And those commute times are drastically shorter in the morning. So do you want to waste an hour of your day stuck in traffic, frustrating, wondering if you're going to make it or not, or, that same commute earlier in the day might take half an hour. So we're just cutting time off our day. We had to get to the office, and get stuff done. Why don't we just go to the office at the time when it's, at the time when there's the least amount of traffic out there? We're not going to waste time in traffic.
How does rushing to start work on time generally affect your stress levels?
Yeah, so you woke up late and you're trying to get to the office for 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whenever that start time is, and now your first experience on the day is actually rushing to get to the office. And in that rush, we have that elevated stress level, and as we elevate our stress level, our amygdala is activated and our prefrontal cortex is deactivated, and our prefrontal cortex is the way we reason and do technical problems and solve issues. So we're immediately activating that emotional response, and we're making ourselves less intelligent. And it's simply because we didn't want to get up earlier to drive to work when there's less traffic out there.
Does getting up on time generally provide a sense of accomplishment?
Yeah. So, we get, momentum, and we get motivated by actually making, accomplishing things. And what's the best thing and the easiest thing to accomplish is you set your alarm clock and you set it at a specific time. And when that alarm clock rings, at that time, you get out of bed. At the time you said you were going to get out of bed. You don't hit the snooze button, go back to bed for another hour. And then the first thing, you start with a win. First thing of the day is you start with a win. You got up on time. You got you got out of bed the time that you wanted to. You start your day with a win, and the momentum can just roll from there.
When are the resources and people you need to coordinate with generally available?
So most businesses, the times when you need to coordinate with your staff, you're going to need to coordinate with suppliers, your bankers, your insurance people, other people, other contractors that you engage, and these people are generally going to be around. If you need to have a discussion with them, they're going to be around in regular business hours. So if you're trying to contact them at 10 o'clock at night, well, guess what? Now you're sending an email, and that email might not, impart what you could impart in a discussion. So the people that you need to coordinate with, back and forth coordination, they're available earlier. They're not available late at night. They're not going to answer their phone when you call your bank at 11:30 p.m. They're not answering. So you need to make time earlier in your day. So simply working later, you can often make the communication, the back and forth communication, less efficient.
How does arriving early help keep employees accountable and motivated?
So you have employees and you're trying to keep them on a schedule. We know we have to keep employees on a schedule to make sure we're paying for hours that they actually work, and you want them there at a certain time to open the office. But then on the other hand, you tell them, well, I want you to get there, but I don't know if I can wake up on time to get there. And slowly what happens is the employees start to say, well, they don't ever, they want me to open the office at 8 a.m., but they always roll in at 9:30. Showing up on time. Maybe it's not that important. Maybe I don't have to show up on time. And even if they do, often they feel, not supported. They're doing the work and the business owner isn't putting in the work. So it keeps them accountable because it shows that, you're not asking to do anything that you don't do. That keeps them motivated, and they see that they're playing on the same team as you.
Why is an earlier start time generally allow more time with family?
So here's the thing. You can say you come into the office later. You could have come into the office at 6 a.m. and you don't get to the office until 9 or 10 a.m. So now that's a 4 hours difference, and you could just say, well, I can just work later. I'm just going to work later. So instead of you came here at 6, maybe you can get off at 6, but instead of 10, now you're getting home at 10. Well, if you have kids and family, they don't want to coordinate with you at 10 p.m. The kids got to get up. They got to go to bed. You have a spouse, and they probably have another job too. And so now everyone is on different schedules, and the time when you're off work is the time when everyone else is asleep. So starting earlier, make sure that when you get off, that the other people in your life, they haven't gone to bed already.
How does starting early and working late facilitate vacation time?
So if you can get into that regime of you start early and maybe you stay a little bit later, the average business owner they have struggled getting vacation. But if they can get into that habit of some longer days, instead of checking out an extra hour early or an extra 2 hours early, if they can start getting into that, it sounds tough, but you get into that 9, 10, 11, 12 hour day. And if you can actually do it and you can actually be productive in those 9, 10, 11, 12 hours, now what happens is now you can actually take that week off. And you can go do something interesting, go on a vacation, and completely check out of the business and completely refresh rather than just go home an extra hour early. So, developing that habit to stay early and work a little bit of a longer day, that can be the reason of why you get a vacation or why you don't have a vacation.
Do successful people generally start early or start late?
There's always exceptions to this rule. But the majority of successful people, they start early. If you start asking them, what time do you start and what time do you start, most successful people start early. They start early for all the reasons that we just said. They can end up getting vacations because of it. The people they have to coordinate with are available at this time. They want to have the time at the end of the day for their family members when they're still awake. They don't want to spend all their time stuck in traffic, and that's why successful people, they generally start early. So there's always going to be exceptions, but our goal is to give you the advice that's going to give you that 80% chance of success, so you don't end up in that 50% of you are going to fail. And whether you like it or not, starting early is going to be one of those tools. So I would suggest that any business owner who is trying to succeed, you get in that habit. You build that habit. Don't beat yourself up over it if you fail once or twice, but you got to get in that habit of starting early, and that's one of the keys to success. So thanks again for joining us here this time. Please hit the like and subscribe button so we can continue to deliver you tips on how to succeed at business. And as always, if you have any comments, please leave them in the section below, and we'll do our best to address them in some future videos. Thanks very much.